I've been literally talking about wanting to do a podcast for like over a year now, and I just like never did it. I can't even sit here and lie and act like I was busy, because like I was busy, but I wasn't that busy enough to do it. But for my first episode, I just want to talk about getting to know me, and then on my next one, we're gonna get into like dating in the LGBTQIA plus community, especially being a melanated king like myself. So we'll get into that on the next episode, but I wanted to just give y'all a little something for my first one. So basically, I grew up I was born in Batavia, New York. So I grew up there until I was about 7 years old, and in that time, like, I lived like a very like, it was a decent childhood. It wasn't terrible. It was there. I had a lot of trauma growing up, and a lot of trauma did influence who I am as an adult. We'll get into more on that trauma when I have my co-host, and we're going to be talking about trauma growing up as a kid. That's a very special, very important, very explicit episode, so stay tuned for that. That is in the works and is being recorded as we speak. But, so, I don't know if any of you know New York, but like New York is way more of a large state than people think. Like, there is like a whole chunk of state. Normally when I be talking to people like down south and stuff, they'll be like, oh, well, like, where in New York City you're from? Like, no, I live in somewhere other than the 5 boroughs. But, so, growing up as a kid, like, my siblings are white, my brother is white, my sister is white, and then there is myself. I am Jamaican, I am Blackfoot Indigenous, and I am Irish, and I am German, and yeah, so I am basically biracial. I consider myself mixed because I have Indigenous blood in me too, and I'm not going to discount that like everybody wants us to do, but that's again for another topic. But, so I grew up and we moved around a lot as a child. Like, I consider myself like basically like a nomadic child. Like, when I tell you like we did not stay anywhere like more than a year. Like, once the year was up, I was in another house, another school, and like that was, now that I'm older, like that was mad annoying, filling out those LSSD forms when they have to have you list everywhere you lived in the past 20 years. Like, that is trauma. That's more traumatic than my childhood experiences at some points, because I'm like, I don't even know where I lived. However, so when I grew up as a kid, like, I found a lot of the times, like, I don't know if anybody else that's mixed has experienced this, but when I grew up in a small town, because there wasn't a lot of melanated kings or queens or any type of people of color, they would call me black. I was always black. But then when I got older and I learned about stuff like I wasn't black, I was mixed, but I noticed like out there, like they genuinely like they see you as black out there. And when I remember when I met my fiance and I called myself black, he looked at me like I was cross-eyed and he was like, you're not black though. That was very confusing to me. But I'm not, that's for another episode too. That's for when Miss Park and I, when we get on our BS. But for this first episode, oh, and I didn't tell y'all, so rude of me. I am 26 years old. I just turned 26. My birthday was July 10th. I am a Cancer. Full on Cancer too. Like 95% of those traits that are positive is genuinely me. Genuinely. Like, I overthink, I'm sensitive, I'm cold, but I'm also emotional. Like, it takes a lot to get to know me. Like, I'm a very complex person. That's why my circle is very small. I like to keep my circle very small, because when I let people into my life, like, it is more than just a little do-do-do-do. Like, it is a huge thing. It's very serious for me. I hold my relationships and my inner circle very closely. Growing up, I was a cheerleader, I was a dancer, I was a gymnast, and I was also a tumbler. I did track. I did very well at track, I did very well at cheerleading, I did very well at gymnastics, I did very well at dance, I did great at tumbling. I tried tennis with my best friend Brittany. Didn't work, will never work. I'm not even gonna bother trying to. I will never again. Tennis, I will strictly do recreationally, and I'll act like I know what I'm doing, and that will be about all. But, like, growing up in high school, like, especially, I was one of the only melanated kids in my school. There was, like, a handful of us. There was maybe 5. I grew up in a school of, like, 300 people, if you count the middle and the high school. I graduated in a class of, like, 51 or 52 people, Like, when I tell you, like, everybody knew everybody in that school and everybody knew everybody's business, like, I'm not lying. It was a very, very much a very, very tiny school. And, like, that was the type of town in Oakfield where, like, generations and generations of that family grew up. So, like, if you did not look familiar, you were a nobody. I moved into that school being a nobody. It was very interesting, though, because, like, I let the kids try me, like, until I got into high school. Once it was high school, it was a wrap. Like, puberty was hitting, my sassiness was coming out. Like, I wasn't letting anybody try me. The person that I became friends with when I first, like, got into Oakfield, like, we've been best friends since 7th grade. Brittany, the one I mentioned earlier, like, we have been best friends since I was 11 years old. And I am now 26. So 15-year friendship. And that's one thing I will say about small towns is, like, that was beautiful. It was beautiful to meet a best friend that I've had in my life for that long. Like, she knows more about me than probably my fiance does. Like, she's been there through everything. But I just wanted to give y'all, like, a little something, a little dose of, like, what we're going to be, like, talking about on this lovely, beautiful, gorgeous podcast. I'm very excited. But stay tuned, because the next episode we are going to be talking about dating. I will be way more unfiltered in this one, and I'm going to be talking about my dating experience from literally, like, even back when I was quote unquote straight, because I was straight all through middle school. I was straight. Well, straight as I could be. Once I was 14, I started talking to guys. I came out at 17. We're about to get into it. So, Sunday, 7 p.m., July 31st, 2022, I will see y'all. Sunday. Remember that. Put it in your calendar. And if you don't put it in your calendar, I'll put it in for you. Don't make me start rolling my neck, and you will feel it through this podcast. So, on episode number 2 of JusTea, we will be tackling the battles of masculinity and femininity in our LGBTQIA plus community, actually even in people as a whole, because we need to first talk about what masculinity and femininity is. So even, like, I'll use an example of, like, growing up as a kid. When I first came out to my brother, he told me, the first thing he literally told me, he's like, I don't have an issue with you being gay, but he was like, are you, like, going to dress up like, you know, a girl and, like, you know, wear a purse and stuff, and, you know, like, I mean, I won't judge you for it, but, like, I'll think that's, like, really weird. And I'm not even gonna sit there, this is an invitation to bash him, because I was literally, like, 15, 16 talking to him about it. 16. I was 16 when I was talking to him about it, so he was about 15 or 14, like, and I grew up in a very small town. Like, there wasn't really any gay people around there or any people in our community, so, like, it's not like we could talk to anybody about it. No one was around, so you just had to figure things out on your own, which I think a lot of people deal with, which is why a lot of people are hesitant to come out, which is unfortunate. But I grew up very much like, hold on. I have my White Claws. That's my drink of choice. But I grew up very much like, I do not care what you think about me. Like, if you have an issue, that's very much a you issue. And if you feel a type of way, get to step in. I'm very much like that. And I feel like a lot of people should be that way. It's very much easier said than done, because not everybody has the environment to do so. I understand that. But that's how it should be. Nobody should ever have to, like, apologize or, like, feel any type of way for expressing themselves or being the type of person that they want to be and living their true, authentic life. Nobody should ever have to apologize for that or be made to feel any type of way about that. That's number one. And that's always going to be number one. Like, nobody. And my number one thing my mom always said is, if they are not affecting your life, why do you care? Like, why do you let people affect your life? Why would you let anybody influence you in doing what you want to do with your life and living and dressing and feeling however you want to feel? Don't ever feel that way. Everything is we're going to dig deep into that. But rule of topic today is the masculinity and femininity. And that goes along to, like, why I grew up feeling a type of way and, like, not wanting to act a type of way, because I already have my brother side-eyeing me if I act a type of way. And Sal, if you're listening to this, I'm not coming for you. I'm just using this as a storyteller. This is my story. I'm just saying, like, this is why I act the way I do. And, like, when I would go to school, like, everyone was always making fun of me, like, not bullying. Everyone's comment about me was always like, oh, he's gay, he's gay, he's gay, he's gay. Okay, and I'm smarter than you. That was always my comeback, like, yeah, I'm gay. But look at my books. Look at my report card. You can't top that. I was close to the top of my class, so you can't top that. So you may be able to clock me as a person, but you'll never be able to clock my books, and the books is what is going to lead to success in life, so I don't care how you feel about me. Point blank, period. So, like, going into school, though, like, they always were like, oh, like, so I was always, like, low-key as a teenager. Like, you always care a little bit as a teenager, because you're, like, growing up into a person. You want to be accepted. You want to be liked. Everyone always says that they don't, but you do a little bit, because you want, like, people. You want a circle. You want some type of, like, interaction with people. Like, you do. So, like, one more sip. So, like, going through school even, I was just afraid of, like, people, like, what they were going to think about me. This was before, like, I was still developing that, like, I don't care attitude. I was still a teenager at this time. So, like, I wanted them to like me. I really did. Now that I'm older, I'm like, Justice, why did you even want them to like you? And, like, it doesn't matter now. But in hindsight, like, as I got older, like, I started to, like, research, because, like, I started, like, when I got my car, I started, like, going to cities and places and, like, seeing people. I was, like, the first thing when I got my car when I was in a small town was to leave the small town and go explore and see what life actually is like go and see civilization and people. Like, you need that. So, like, I went to Buffalo. Oh, my gosh, so many different tribes, so many different people, so many different communities. It's beautiful. But I started talking to people and, like, learning more about, like, our community. And, like, one thing that stuck with me is, like, Justice, if you think about it, everything is a social construct. Masculinity and femininity is taught. Gender roles are taught and are assigned. And that's so true. Like, men even made bras and even made corsets. So why are we over here, like, listening to this stuff? Like, who are you? Like, being a man, take that statement, break it down. What is being a man? Being a woman, take that down and break it down. What is being a woman? They are rules set in stone by people that believed that is their belief to what a man and a woman is. Like, just sit there and think about it. So how are you going to sit there and judge me for doing this and saying this and talking this way and acting this way, saying that's a woman and that's a man, when, like, literally that's, like, not even a thing to me? Like, if somebody asks me, like, oh, like, how are you as a person, like, as, like, a gay kid, like, do you act, you know, masculine or feminine, do you act mask or feminine? I'm like, I act like me. Well, yeah, but, like, are you more girly, you know, or more you act like a guy? I was like, I act like myself. I don't believe I act like a man or a woman. I act like Justice. That is how I act. And it's so hard, especially, like, I'm a mixed dude, so even in the melanated community, I don't say white or black. I say melanated. Because, again, white and black is, again, a social construct, but we'll get into that on our episode with our guest. But, I don't identify as, like, oh, well, I do the dishes, but I also, you know, take out the trash. So, you know, no, I don't do that. Like, no, we're not doing this. At the end of the day, even in the melanated community, like, especially if you act a certain way and don't act manly and you are a member of the community, like, you are automatically judged in the household. And I think that is so unacceptable. And it should not be that way. So, like, take this to heart. Like, masculinity and femininity is not a thing. It's not going to be a thing. Well, it is a thing in the society, but it shouldn't be a thing. So please, like, take that into effect. Like, if you're over here, even a melanated king or queen, and you're over here like, oh, well, I feel a type of way because I don't act this way or act that way and my family does. No, screw them, because it doesn't matter. There's no bulletproof stereotype as to how you're supposed to act in our community. Be yourself. Doesn't matter if you're a mask, it doesn't matter if you're femme, those aren't things. You are yourself, whatever your name is or whatever you choose to identify as, whatever your given name or after a name, like whatever you want to be identified as. Don't sit there and say, if a dude asks you or a girl asks you, or if anybody non-binary queens out there, if anyone asks you, oh, are you more masculine or feminine? No, I am so-and-so. And that is how it should be. And that is what I'm going to be passing on to people. Very unacceptable. And we need to do better. Not we as in you, just we as a community. Because it is rough out on these streets, people. It's rough out on these streets. Let's talk about it, though. Let's talk about being a real man. A dude will sit there and tell me that I'm not a real man, but he's over here beating his wife and beating his kids. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the fact that you go and sit there and call me a faggot, but you over here, after we graduate, over here getting arrested and going to prison. Who's the faggot now? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the fact that I literally got jumped by 3 kids after school and harassed after school over my sexuality, and all 3 of them ended up going to prison or having 3 to 5 baby mamas. Let's talk about it. Get you some business. If that's what being a real man is, I don't want to be a real man. I don't want to be a real man. That ass. I'm over here. Got me heated because I'm just thinking about all the bullshit that these people tried to say to me. Like, these people were really, really terrible to me for genuinely no reason. And I'm over here successful. I'm over here about to be making $50,000 an hour with no degree. And I'm about to be getting my degree, finishing school, because I already have a year done. I'm about to be finishing school, and I'm about to be making over $50,000 a year because I already have the experience. So they're going to hire me fresh out of school. And you at home. I'm at home too, but you at home fresh out of prison. Like, shame on you. And karma will get you. And I'm not even going to manifest any negative energy because life is already manifesting it for you. Won't he do it? But this is episode 1. The next ones are going to be longer when I have guests next week. So tune in next week, August 3rd. August 3rd, because I'm going to be doing twice a week, everybody. So tune in August 3rd. I will be having a guest. I'm not going to tell you who the guest is. You'll have to tune in to find out. But it will be at 7 o'clock as well. So thank you for tuning in to JusTea. And August 3rd, I'm going to be discussing also with my co-host that week, what are we going to do for a theme song? What are we going to do for an intro? What are we going to do for an outro? What are we going to do for sound effects? Like, let's talk about it. I have a laptop, and I'm ready to use it. And we're about to be going in. I always say this every week, and it's going to be my thing, is y'all aren't ready. Y'all are not ready. But thank you for listening. Thank you. Please share this around. Share this around, especially if you know someone that's low-key they feel no type of way about their sexuality and they don't want to say anything. Just send them over to my podcast. Have them message me. I'll send you, you know what I mean. Just share my stuff, people. Share my stuff. You all know dang well I need a show, so share my stuff.